This is Design Safe Radio, where natural hazards researchers strive to make our society more resilient to everything nature throws at us.
We have the research experience for undergraduates at all of the NHERI facilities. UF is among those. And so, what has been your experience with those REU students, and what do you hope they take away from the summer they spend at the UF facility?
Yeah. So we've had, I guess, 2 cohorts now of students while I've been involved in the project. The first group, I didn't really get to connect with as much because I was working with the teacher, but I did have one of them help us look through projects. So that was kind of fun, and talk to them about the purpose of what we were trying to do. This summer, I've had the pleasure of interacting with all of our REU students. We have 3 right now, and they participated in our summer professional development and even gave a talk about their research and their experience as high school students to the teachers to talk about like the importance of this type of engagement, working in a project-based learning type of environment. So I think it's more compelling for them to tell of their experience than it might be for me, who's like well beyond a decade removed from high school. And one of them actually specifically chose our site for the opportunity to engage with engineering education.
Wow.
So I'm really excited about working with her, and we've been talking pretty consistently throughout the summer about the project that I'm working on. And she's been connected with some other engineering education faculty at the University of Florida. And she'll be attending, we have a combined research group discussion that's going on this summer. So she's attending that here shortly, and we'll get some more insight on like types of projects that happen in engineering education, because it's kind of a new department on a lot of campuses. Students don't really know what it is. Mm-hmm. They have ideas about, what it could be, but giving them actual like tangible things that people are doing is really helpful to allow them to understand like, oh, this is what I can potentially pursue. And as someone who got a PhD in engineering and then made the choice to move into engineering education after I was done, I think having a better understanding before I jumped into a PhD program might have pushed me a different way for my PhD. So I'm excited to give her the chance to make that decision early. And I think she's been thinking about it like as an opportunity.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thinking too of just that experience as an undergrad, like what an opportunity to get that diverse exposure and experience like we've been talking about this whole time, of just the world-class facility and world-class people at that facility, like you. I'll say that so you don't have to. And getting to be around you guys for a summer, what an amazing opportunity for an undergraduate that, will absolutely have, can't quantify necessarily maybe that effect, but there is an effect.
I'm sure really cool. Someone has done that research. So
yes, someone probably has. Or if they haven't, you've got a ready-made research project ready to go.
Yeah, I think so. My research really focuses on mentoring, and one of the things that I love about REU programs is that you're giving students a lot of engagements where they can develop mentoring relationships. So they have peers in their cohort, not just at their site, but at all of the NHERI facilities that they're connected to. They have near peers through the graduate students who are involved in those projects. They have kind of some aspirational potential mentors that they could connect with who are doing incredible work, as you mentioned, in these facilities. And all of their networks are now their network.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that level of integration in a project. I think these projects are so thoughtfully curated for the students, and even from the professional development side, they're getting the skills that they need to be successful moving forward if they choose the path of research. So it's a phenomenal experience for them, really enriching. And I wish I had the chance to do something like this as a student.
Yeah, I like if I had had an opportunity, I wouldn't have taken advantage of it when I was a student. Like I'm sure it was available, but I was just like, nah.
You
But
were doing marching band, right?
exactly, I was focused on other things, which turned out great. So no regrets. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's really fantastic to see that opportunity and like the stellar human beings who go through it. Like every chance I've gotten to meet an RU student's like, wow, you are so awesome.
Yeah, and so, the idea that all of them are going to go on and be like PhDs at research institutions and do all this stuff like is probably unrealistic. But giving them the opportunity to make that choice and it be an informed choice rather than
Hmm.
I didn't even know that was an option for me. Like, I think that is what's invaluable
Yeah,
for the project.
especially finding there is very much intentionally a focus on you know under-resourced,
Mhm.
historically marginalized communities in the university setting,
Yeah.
and many RU students are coming from there. Can you tell a little bit about some of their experience and what they've found?
Yeah, and I'll just say the student who I mentioned earlier, who I've been working with, she's from the University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez, and the two individuals that I connected her with are faculty who graduated from that university who do engineering education research.
Awesome.
And I don't think she knew that that was even a possibility, right? Like having a connection with someone who's from where you're from, who's gone to the school that you went to, and now has a career in academia. And I'm sure that there are those anecdotes across the country where faculty are saying, oh, you're interested in this? I can connect you with this person who does what you're doing. And that's not to say like it will result in like some meaningful relationship long term, but it gives them an a role model, somebody they can see
Hmm.
who looks like them, who's been through what they've been through, and can relate to them at a level that I can't because I've
Mm.
not come from that space.
Yeah.
Even though we're both women, I don't know what it's like to live in Puerto Rico and go to school there and
Right.
pursue an engineering degree and be interested in engineering education. Like all of those things are not my life. So
Yeah.
it's good to have someone you don't have to navigate those barriers with. You can
Yeah.
just talk about your experience and it's communal. And from like a mentoring side, like there's evidence that shows that that type of relationship does produce better outcomes for their mentoring relationship. So
That's
my
great.
hope is that that will occur, and uh, I think it's moving in the right direction.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up here, you mentioned a bit about giving kind of voices and to
Hmm.
those who typically haven't had it and telling good stories and helping navigate those barriers. And it sounds like you do that through your own podcast, Modern Figures, which I've got to stick on my Stitcher feed to listen to,
Oh,
about
thanks.
black women in computing. Can you tell us about that? And you're in your third season already, which is fantastic. Like you're kind of over
Yeah,
the hump of where a lot of podcasts die off. So
I
well done.
know. Honestly, like I'm probably the more reluctant of the two of us to have gotten there because it's a lot of work
It is a
to
whole lot of work.
maintain a podcast and to interview people and just vetting people to make sure like the content will be the type of content that we want to reach people. But I mean, it came out of this need that we saw that there weren't role models for people in computing to look at. Like there was this whole movement around hidden figures, that movie that came out about the NASA computers. And those women are incredible trailblazers for the field of computing, and we didn't even know about them as a country until a movie came out, which is absurd. Um,
Yeah.
Without their experiences, we wouldn't have done so much of what we've done in space, right? And I think about the people who I've met along my journey and the incredible work that they're doing that kind of sits hidden somewhere in an academic journal repository that nobody's going to read.
Yeah.
And their stories of how they came to be successful in what they're doing. And it kind of just makes sense to highlight some of that work being done from people who are around today and are still doing that work that we have access to and can talk to. And so that's kind of where it came from. And we're going to keep doing it as much as we can to try to, help people understand that you could come from anywhere. Your experiences could be super varied, but you can still make a contribution in a technical space that changes the world. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
That's fantastic. Where can people follow along with your podcasts and other things that you're up to research-wise?
We're pretty much everywhere. So if you just look up Modern Figures, you'll find it, Modern Figures Podcast. And for me, like, I'm on Twitter, so it's probably easiest just to find me. And it's just at Jeremy Waisome. It's been pretty easy to find. And then it'll connect you to like my website and all the things.
Awesome. Man, it has just been wonderful to meet you today. I'm hoping that we get to chat a whole lot more.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a lot of things to talk about. So just very grateful that you took the time today. I know you've got a ton going on and getting ready for the semester coming up in a very short amount of time and all that. So I just really appreciate it. And everything that you're up to down there at UF is just fantastic. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Design Safe Radio. This show is sponsored by the National Science Foundation, grant number 2129782. You can subscribe to Design Safe Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you find your podcasts. Please leave us a review so that we can improve the show and also help others find our episodes in iTunes. Thanks for your feedback and support. We really appreciate it. You can find out more about NHERI at designsafe-ci.org, on Facebook at Design Safe Radio, or on Twitter at NHERI Design Safe.